I stare at the blinking cursor, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The words are right there, bubbling up from somewhere deep inside me, demanding to be let out. I glance at the clock. It's 11:47 p.m. Mateo has been asleep for hours. His soft snores are slowly filling the hallway. Our house is quiet except for the constant hum of my laptop fan. I really shouldn't do this. I know I shouldn't, but this frustration has been building for weeks, months maybe, and I just can't keep it in anymore. Pretty soon my fingers start moving before my brain can stop them. Do you ever feel like your so-called partner doesn't really desire you anymore? As if you're just there, existing, like an undesired college roommate you were forced to dorm with, or like a piece of stale, undesirable furniture that no one wants to sit on. I wonder if I should find someone else to sit on. Asking for a friend, wink wink. Hashtag relationship struggles, hashtag honest thoughts. I hit post without anything. Just like that, the little loading circle spins, and then disappears. And there it is, living on our company's official Twitter account for the universe to see. Damn. My stomach kinda lurches, but I quickly push the feeling down. Look, it's fine. It's content. And look, people love authenticity. That's what I always tell my team anyway. In what feels like mere seconds later, my phone buzzes, almost immediately. It's Emma. Claire. Hey, what the hell? Her voice is a harsh whisper, even though she's calling from her own apartment across town. Did you seriously just post that on corporate's Twitter account? I lean back in my chair, trying to sound more confident than I feel. Relax, Em, it's just a little real talk. People will relate. Real talk? Claire, that's our corporate account, with 8 million plus followers, and it's midnight. Who's gonna take it down if it goes sideways? I roll my eyes, even though I know she can't see me. It's not gonna go sideways. It's one tweet. It'll get a few likes, maybe a couple retweets, and then it'll disappear into the void like everything else. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. You're not gonna delete it, are you? Nope. I pop the P like a teenager popping a piece of bubblegum, feeling a low-key perverse satisfaction in my defiance. It's staying up. It's good content. Emma sighs, and I can practically hear her pinching the bridge of her nose. You're nuts. Hope you know what you're doing. The call ends, and I stare at the tweet. The likes are already starting to roll in. 10, 20, 55. My phone buzzes again, but this time it's a text from Ryan, the new guy on our team. Damn, Claire. Bold move. I like it. Winky face. I feel a little dopamine thrill at his words, quickly followed by a slight pang of guilt. I shouldn't be texting with Ryan this late. But it's just work, right? He's just being supportive. I type out a quick reply. Thanks. Sometimes you just have to keep it real, you know? The 3 dots appear immediately. For sure. You're the 3rd bravest person I know. Most people wouldn't have the guts to put themselves out there like that. I smile at my screen, ignoring the little voice in my head that's telling me to stop. It's just harmless flirting. Everyone does it. Mateo probably wouldn't even care if he knew. Not that he'd notice me anyway. He's been so distant lately, always buried in his code, barely looking up when I walk into the room. The likes on the tweet keep climbing. 100, 200, 550. My phone starts buzzing with notifications. People are retweeting, quoting, replying. My heart starts to race. This is much more than I expected. I refresh the page and my stomach drops. Someone has screenshot the tweet and posted it to Reddit. The thread is already hundreds of comments long, over 1,000 karma and growing by the second. Corporate account gets real about relationship struggles? Thoughts? The comments are a mix of amusement and outrage. Some people think it's hilarious, others are calling for someone to be fired. My hands start to tremble. Maybe Emma was right. Maybe I should delete it. But then I see the numbers. Our follower count is climbing, fast. 210K, 215K, 220K. The engagement is through the roof. This is the most attention our account has gotten in months. I can't delete it now. It's working. The dopamine hits. My phone buzzes again. It's Mateo. Claire, what's going on? My coworker just sent me this tweet. I freeze. Shit. I didn't think about Mateo seeing it. I thought he'd be asleep. I thought, Claire? His voice is tight, controlled in that way it gets when he's really angry but trying not to show it. Did you really post that about us? On your work account? I swallow hard. It's not about us exactly. It's just a general thing, content people can relate to. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. When Matteo finally speaks, his voice is quiet, but it cuts through me like a knife. You used our relationship for likes, for engagement. You serious right now? It's not like that, I say quickly, but even as the words come out, I know they're not true. It is like that, exactly like that. Matteo, don't, he interrupts. Just don't. We'll chat about this in the morning. The line goes dead. I stare at my phone, my heart pounding. The tweet is still there, still racking up likes and retweets. Our follower count is still climbing. A small plus surrounded by minuses, but all I can think about is the look I know will be on Matteo's face when I see him in the morning. I close my laptop and head to bed, but I don't sleep. I lie there in the dark, listening to Matteo's steady breathing, wondering how I'm going to fix this. Wondering if I even can. The morning light filters through the blinds, casting long stripes across the bed. Matteo is already up, his side of the bed cold. I can hear him moving around in the kitchen, the clink of a coffee cup, the scrape of a chair. My stomach churns. I don't want to face him, but I can't stay in bed forever. When I finally drag myself into the kitchen, Matteo is sitting at the table, his laptop open in front of him. He doesn't look up when I come in. The silence between us is heavy, suffocating. Matteo, I start, but he holds up a hand, cutting me off. Don't, he says, his voice flat. Just don't. I hover in the doorway, unsure of what to do. My phone buzzes in my hand, and I glance down at it. It's another text from Ryan. Hey, just checking in. How are you holding up? That tweet really blew up, huh? I quickly shove my phone into my pocket, feeling guilty for no reason. It's just Ryan. It's just work. But the way Matteo is looking at me, like he can see right through me, makes me feel like I've been caught doing something wrong. Who's that? He asks, his eyes narrowing. No one, I say too quickly. Just work. Matteo doesn't say anything, but the look on his face says enough. He turns back to his laptop, his fingers tapping angrily at the keys. I want to say something, to explain, to apologize, but the words stick in my throat. Instead, I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit down across from him, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. The day doesn't get any better. By the time I log into work, my inbox is flooded with emails. My boss, Sarah, has already scheduled an emergency meeting. Emma's messages are frantic. Claire, what the hell were you thinking? This is out of control. I try to brush it off, to act like it's no big deal, but the truth is, I'm starting to panic. The tweet has gone viral. It's been picked up by news outlets, blogs, even a few late-night talk shows. Our follower count has skyrocketed, but so has the backlash. People are calling for my head, demanding that I be fired. The meeting with Sarah is a disaster. She's furious, her face red, her voice shaking with anger. You have any idea what you've done? This is a PR nightmare. We're getting calls from clients, the press, everyone. What were you thinking? I try to explain, to justify my actions, but the words sound hollow even to me. Sarah isn't having it. You're suspended, effective immediately. We're conducting a full investigation. And Claire? If I were you, I'd probably consider updating my resume. I log out of the Zoom meeting feeling numb. My phone vibrates again, and this time it's Ryan. Hey, heard about the meeting. That sucks. Down to grab a drink later? I stare at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But the thought of going home to Matteo, to that suffocating silence, is too much. I type out a quick reply. Sure. Meet you at 7. The 3 dots appear immediately. Can't wait. Winky face. I feel a little thrill at his words, quickly followed by a soft pang of guilt, but I push it down. It's just a drink. It's just work. It's fine. When I get home, Matteo is still at the table, his laptop open in front of him. He doesn't look up when I come in. The silence between us is heavier than ever. I'm going out tonight, I say, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet kitchen. Matteo looks up, his eyes narrowing. Out? Where? Just out with Emma. To talk about everything. Matteo doesn't say anything, but the look on his face says enough. He knows I'm lying, I can see it in his eyes. But he doesn't call me out on it. He just turns back to his laptop, his fingers tapping angrily at the keys. I change quickly, throwing on a dress and some makeup, trying to ignore the knot of guilt in my stomach. When I leave, Matteo doesn't say goodbye. The bar is dimly lit, the air thick with the smell of alcohol and sweat. Ryan is already there, sitting at a corner table with a drink in his hand. He smiles when he sees me, his eyes lighting up. "Hey, you made it." I slide into the seat across from him, enjoying at the way he's looking at me. It's been so long since someone looked at me like that, with desire, like I was something special. We talk for hours, the drinks flowing like water from a faucet. Within few drinks in his system, Ryan can be quite charming, funny, and I like how he listens to me in a way Matteo hasn't in years. I feel seen, heard, appreciated. It's quite intoxicating. But as the night wears on, the guilt starts to creep in. I'm a married woman. I know I should go home, but the thought of facing Matteo, of dealing with the mess I've made, is too much. So I stay longer, letting Ryan refill my glass, letting his words wash over me, trying to drown out the voice in my head that's telling me to stop, and letting the night take us to, well, I'll leave that to your imagination. When I finally stumble home in the early hours of the morning, Matteo is still up, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee in his hand. His face is pale, his eyes red-rimmed. He looks like he hasn't slept. "Where were you?" he asks, his voice quiet but sharp. "Out," I say, my words slurring slightly. "With Emma." Matteo doesn't say anything, but the look on his face says enough. He knows I'm lying. He knows everything. "Claire," he says, his voice breaking, "what are we doing?" I don't have an answer. I just stand there, swaying slightly, the guilt and the alcohol churning in my stomach. Matteo looks at me for a long moment, then he stands up, his chair scraping against the floor. "I can't do this anymore," he says, his voice quiet but firm. "I can't keep acting like everything's okay when it's not. It's not how I do things." He walks out of the kitchen, leaving me standing there, alone. The silence is deafening. The days blur together after that. Matteo eventually decides moves out, taking only what he needs. He doesn't say much when he leaves, just a quiet, "I'll be in touch," before he walks out the door. The house feels empty without him, the silence pressing in on me from all sides. Work isn't any better. The investigation is ongoing, and I'm still suspended. Emma tries to be supportive, but I can tell she's frustrated with me. Ryan keeps texting, his messages growing more flirtatious by the day. I know I should shut it down, but I don't. It's easier to lose myself in his attention than to face the mess I've made. One evening, as I'm scrolling through my phone, I come across a post from Matteo. It's a photo of him at a boba spot, a thick book open in front of him and a small smile on his face. The caption reads, "Sometimes you need to step back to see things clearly." Grateful for the quiet moments. My heart aches as I stare at the photo. He looks content, much happier than he's looked in months. In a way, happier than he ever looked with me. I want to reach out, to apologize, to beg him to come back, but I know I don't have the right. Not after everything. Instead, I text Ryan. "Hey, you free tonight?" The response comes almost immediately. "For you? Always." Winky face. We meet at the same bar, the dim lighting and loud music providing a welcome distraction from my thoughts. Ryan is already there, a drink in his hand, his smile wide and inviting. "Hey, you," he says as I slide into the seat across from him. "Wow, you look amazing." I force a smile, trying to ignore the guilt gnawing at the edges of my mind. "Thanks. You don't look so bad yourself." We talk for hours, the drinks flowing freely. Ryan is charming as always, his words smooth and practiced. He leans in close, his hand brushing against mine, and for a moment, I let myself forget about everything else. But as the night wears on, the guilt starts to creep in. I know I shouldn't be here, shouldn't be doing this, but I can't seem to stop myself. It's like I'm on a runaway train, hurtling toward disaster, and I can't find the brakes. When Ryan suggests we go back to his place, I hesitate. I know what he's asking, what he wants, and part of me wants it too. Wants to lose myself in him, to forget about Matteo, about the mess I've made. But another part of me knows it's wrong, knows I'm just using him to fill the void Matteo left behind. "Claire," Ryan says, his voice low and inviting. "Come on, you know you want to." I look at him, at his handsome face, his confident smile, and for a moment I consider it. But then I think of Matteo, of the way he looked at me that last morning, the pain and disappointment in his eyes. And I know I can't do this. "I just can't," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." Ryan's smile falters, but he quickly recovers, his charm slipping back into place. "No worries. Maybe another time." I nod, but I know there won't be another time. I stand up, my legs slightly shaky, and make my way to the door. The cool night air hits me like a crisp slap, bringing me back to reality. I feel nauseous, my stomach churning with guilt and regret. When I get home, the house is still empty, the silence pressing in on me. I collapse onto the couch, my head in my hands, and let the tears come. I cry for Matteo, for the relationship I destroyed, for the person I've become. I cry until I have no tears left, until I'm just a hollow shell, empty and broken. The next morning, I wake up to a text from Emma. "Hey, we need to talk. Can you come by my place?" I drag myself out of bed, my head pounding, and make my way to Emma's apartment. She opens the door, her face serious, and ushers me inside. "Claire," she says, her voice firm. "We need to talk about Ryan." I freeze, my heart skipping a beat. "What about him?" Emma crosses her arms, her eyes narrowing. "I know you've been spending time with him, and I know what he's like. He's not good for you, Claire. He's just using you." I want to argue, to defend myself, but the words stick in my throat, because deep down I know she's right. I've been using Ryan just as much as he's been using me, trying to fill the void Matteo left behind. Literally and figuratively. "Yeah, I know," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know it's wrong. I don't know what to do, Emma. I feel so lost." Emma's expression softens and she pulls me into a soft hug. "I know, Claire, but you can't keep running from this. You gotta face it, otherwise you're just gonna keep making the same mistakes." I nod, tears welling up in my eyes. "I know, I don't know how to fix it." Emma pulls back, her hands on my shoulders, her eyes serious. "You start by being honest, with yourself, with Matteo, with everyone. You can't keep hiding from the truth, Claire. It's the only way you're gonna move forward." I take a deep breath, her words sinking in. She's right. I can't keep running, can't keep hiding. I need to face what I've done, to take responsibility for my actions. It's the only way I'm ever gonna find peace. The next few days are a blur of half-hearted self-reflection and painful realizations. I avoid Ryan's texts, letting them pile up like trash on the floor of a sold-out concert. Instead, I decide to spend my time alone, pondering everything that's happened, marinating on the choices I've made and the person I've transformed into. One afternoon, I find myself standing in front of Matteo's new apartment. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I know I need to see him, to apologize, to try to make things right. My heart pounds as I knock on the door, my hands trembling. Matteo opens the door, his expression guarded. "Claire," he says, his voice neutral. "What you doing here?" "I need to talk," I say, my voice shaking. "Please." He hesitates for a moment, then steps aside, letting me in. The apartment is small but cozy, filled with books, Star Wars figurines, and green leafy plants. It's so him. My heart aches as I take it all in, the reality of what I've lost hitting me like 1,000 russet potatoes. We sit down on the couch, the silence between us heavy and uncomfortable. I take a deep breath, trying to find the words. "Matteo," I start, my voice barely above a whisper. "Look, I'm so sorry for everything. I know I messed up, and I know I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to tell you how sorry I am." Matteo doesn't say anything, just looks at me, his expression unreadable. I swallow hard, forcing myself to continue. "I was selfish and impulsive, and I took you for granted. I didn't see how much I was hurting you, how much I was hurting us. I was so caught up in my own dissatisfaction that I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away." Tears well up in my eyes, but I blink them away, determined to get through this. "I know I can't undo what I've done, but I want you to know that I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be better, to be the person you deserved all along." Matteo sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Claire," he says, his voice quiet but firm. "I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate the apology. But I don't know if I can trust you again, not after everything." I nod, the tears finally spilling over. "I understand. I needed you to know how sorry I am, and I needed to say goodbye." Matteo's expression softens, and for a moment I think he might reach out to me, to reconnect and save our marriage, but he doesn't. Instead, he just nods, his eyes filled with a sadness that mirrors my own. "Take care of yourself, Claire," he says, his voice gentle but final. I stand up, my legs wobbly, and make my way to the door. As I step out into the hallway, I feel a strange sense of closure. It's not the happy ending I was hoping for, but it's something. It's a start. The days that follow are hard. I sign the papers and I miss Matteo more than I thought possible. Guilt and regret become my constant companions. I'm trying to move forward, to learn from my mistakes and become a better person. I start by doing a social media purge and delete my personal accounts. It's a small step, but it feels freeing. I don't want to be that person anymore. I can't be that person anymore, the one who craves validation and attention at any cost. I want to be someone who values real connections, who treats people with respect and kindness. I also reach out to my friend Emma, apologizing for pushing her away and thanking her for being there for me. She's hesitant to reconnect at first, but eventually, she forgives me, and our friendship begins to heal. As for Ryan, I finally respond to his texts, telling him that I need to focus on myself and that I can't see him anymore. He's not happy about it, but he respects my decision. It's a relief to finally cut ties with him, so I can stop using him as an entertaining but unnecessary distraction from the pain. The hardest part is facing the consequences of my actions at work. The investigation concludes, and ultimately I'm given a formal warning. I'm allowed to keep my job, which I'm happy for, but I'm on thin ice. I know I need to prove myself, to show that I can control myself and be responsible. At that point, I throw myself, head and feet first into my work, focusing on creating meaningful, semi-authentic content that doesn't rely on shock value or personal drama. It's a slow process, trying to adapt to this new style of content creation, but over time, I start to regain the trust of my colleagues and most of my key clients. As the months pass, slowly but surely, I start to feel like my old self again. The pain of losing Matteo never fully goes away, but it becomes more manageable, a dull ache rather than a sharp, constant sting. One day as I'm walking home from work, I see Matteo. He's sitting at a cafe, a book in his hand, like always, with that same small, cute smile on his face. He looks genuinely happy, and for the first time I finally feel a sense of peace. I know I'll regret what I did, putting our business in the streets and overindulging, but I'm glad he's found some kind of happiness, even if it's not with me. I keep walking, my heart a bit lighter than it's been in months. I know I still have a ways to go, but I'm slowly starting to believe that I can get there. That I can be better. That I can move on from this. I take a deep breath, letting the cool city air fill my lungs. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.